Hello, my name is Travis Newbill. I live and work here at Shambhala Mountain Center, where we're going to be hosting a big summertime conference, the second annual Wisdom Rising, an exploration of the divine feminine in Buddhism. And that's coming up later this summer, August 17th to the 21st. And there's many wonderful teachers involved in that conference. And one of them, Elizabeth Mattis-Namgyel, is here with me today to have some discussion around the sort of the theme of the event and related notions. Elizabeth has studied and practiced the Buddha Dharma for 30 years under the guidance of her teacher and husband, Dzigar Kongtrul Rinpoche. She's known for her willingness to question the entire path in order to reach a place of genuine practice and awakening. She's the author of The Power of an Open Question and is currently working on her new book, The Logic of Faith. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Travis. And I'm really looking forward to the conference. And I think the topic is a juicy one. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, so maybe just beginning right there, right in the title, there's this phrase, divine feminine in Buddhism. And that may be quite a mysterious phrase for a lot of the people watching or listening to this, or people who have seen the website for the conference. And I wonder if you may have anything to say, just to begin with, what does that mean? What is divine feminine in Buddhism?
Yeah, I think in a very fundamental or essential way, it refers to insight or wisdom. I don't think it's necessarily a gender issue, but it manifests this connection between insight and femininity or feminine beings or feminine deities in many different kinds of ways, both in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana tradition in particular. For example, in the Vajrayana tradition, if you look at some of the traditional hagiographies, the biographies of the great masters, they'll often have stories where a great meditator is doing practice in a cave very piously, and a little wisdom kind of sprite or dakini will come and start to test him and provoke him and see how genuine and authentic his practice really is. So it has something to do with this very genuine a wisdom aspect, and whether we're on or off track in terms of our own practice. So this is fascinating in the Vajrayana that you see this theme occur a lot, particularly in the context of the Mahasiddha tradition. And also in the Vajrayana, you see the feminine principle associated with the nature of the elements too. And that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But in the most essential way, I think, and this is something that pervades both the Mahayana and the Vajrayana, is that you see the feminine principle manifest as the idea or also a deity of prajnaparamita. So this is probably what I think, talk about the most, and it's what I'm most fascinated with in my own life and in my own practice. So I can maybe say a few things about prajnaparamita. So prajnaparamita is a Sanskrit term. Prajna means accurate seeing. In other words, you're seeing without impediment. And seeing is not just obviously literally seeing, but having an understanding or wisdom or insight. So having insight into the nature of reality without any impediment or any mistake or confusion there. So that is kind of in a subjective experience of having an accurate understanding of how things are in terms of phenomena, including one's own, the quality of one's own thoughts and emotions and how to work with them in an intelligent way. So that's what insight would mean. So prajna is that kind of insight, accurate discernment. It helps us navigate intelligently this world that's changing and rich and painful and beautiful and all of those things. Everything and anything. And paramita means to go beyond or transcend. So what are we transcending is our ordinary way of seeing something. And our ordinary way of seeing things is to really look at something and think that we know it in some kind of definitive or determinate way. So often this is discussed as reifying an object, like we have a moment of anger arise and we shut down around a story. So we're not able to see clearly what's really going on there. So the fact that we reify or objectify our experience is kind of the fertilizer for our negative, disturbing emotions. So
connecting those
yeah.
the points that you brought up, like one, that image of the meditator encountering some, you could say, what, expression of mind, or a sort of this kind of feminine dakini sort of presence that tests the meditator. Are you really practicing the way that you think you are? And then this other related point of the prajnaparamita being kind of seeing beyond, or seeing in a different way, or seeing through, seeing more completely. So this could maybe translate into somebody having some idea of how they're doing, maybe on the meditation cushion or in their lives, but then all of a sudden kind of being poked by some insight that kind of urges us to maybe open up further, or see things differently or more completely, and we may then sort of realize where we're at. Does that line up or sound accurate?
That lines up, because what those wisdom beings that you find in the Vajrayana, they take a feminine form, sometimes wrathful, sometimes they're just very provocative, and they question, and they notice when things are off. So you might think you're resting in the nature that understands how things really are, which is the prajnaparamita itself. But you might have some subtle grasping, or you might have some subtle pride or some arrogance about how you're doing, which is really an indication that you're very off track. So you're already reifying your experience, and you're reifying your understanding of who you are or how things are, rather than having this open, if I were to talk about the quality of prajnaparamita as an experience, I would say the mind of awe, or the mind that's utterly humble and in awe of its fathomless universe, which arises from emptiness through the nature of interdependence. So interdependence and emptiness actually, for the most part, are interchangeable words, because if you look at the nature of anything, you see that it's made out of parts, and there's nothing that you can find that's autonomous or exists unto itself. So everything is leaning. Everything leans. It all depends. The physical world is made of parts. Everything it all depends on what happens. We don't exist in a vacuum. We're part of the great nature of interdependence. So really, to know who you are means to know yourself in relationship. And when you're in relationship, you can't be one single static autonomous thing. So as you begin to look into the nature of interdependence, you see that you can't really grasp at anything